Hi, brothers and sisters. I hope that this message finds you well. Right now, we find ourselves in turbulent times. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on in the world. Even in our own country, we have political turmoil, we have natural disasters, we have civil unrest. And around the world, there are a lot of different atrocities that are happening to mankind or humankind. A lot of people are looking for answers. They're looking to turn to leaders, and they're looking to resolve their own issues, their own problems. And one thing that we have to ask ourselves is, who really has the answer? What is really the key to saving humanity? And in this message, I want to bring to you Psalms 1, which is a reflective psalm that I read from time to time to remind me of where my focus should be. And Psalms 1 is a nice introduction to the book of Psalms. And it reminds us that we need to stick with God. We need to meditate in His law. And you can break Psalms 1 up into 3 different parts. So I want to talk through the 3 different parts with you so that we can have a better understanding of where our focus should be during difficult times and who we need to put our faith in. So I want to start by reading you verses 1 and 2 of Psalm 1. And it says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in His law he meditates day and night." And here the author introduces us to 3 different ways that we can become comfortable with sinners and their ways. First, the author reminds us, don't walk in that path. And sometimes when we start entertaining ideas of the world or philosophies of mankind, as Christians, we start walking down this path of uncertainty or this path of world philosophies that don't line up with biblical teachings. The author goes on to say, don't stand in the path. First, don't walk down the path, because you're going to start finding different ways of thinking that don't line up with God and actually work against God. And then you don't want to stand because you're getting comfortable. Once you're walking down that path and you're standing, you're not moving any closer to God. You're just standing there in this path of destruction, and you're looking at these sinners, and you might even be enabling them to continue thinking the way that they're thinking, working against God. And once you stand there long enough, you become comfortable and you decide to sit down. So the author says, don't sit in the seat of the scornful. You don't want to get that comfortable with sin in your life. Second verse says, "But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in His law he meditates day and night." And for me, what that means is reading the Word, is thinking and reflecting on my own behavior and what I need to do to change and to be a better Christian and a better example for those that are looking for salvation. To have my testimony speak and to present the gospel in a way that can impact the world or impact a neighborhood or impact a community, a family, and help them understand that there's a better life with Christ and with God. Verse 3, it says, "He shall be like a tree," he or she will be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. And when I read this verse, it reminds me of the benefit of having God in my life and accepting Jesus Christ. And if we could think of that tree that's planted by the river, trees need water to grow, just like we need spiritual food to grow as good, solid Christian adults. When we think about falling in love with God, I always compare it to falling in love with someone else. Falling in love, for those that are married or for those that are dating, when you have a significant other, all you can do is think about them. Oh, you can't wait to get their text message, to get their phone call. You want to see them at church. You want to see them at a church event because they interest you. You want to make them happy, so you try not to upset them. So I think about falling in love with God in that way, but it's a little more intense. And the author reminds us, you want to meditate on His word day and night. Now, Jesus told us that we should fall in love with God with everything that we have. And I'm paraphrasing. But when He tells us that, again, it reminds me of how we as human beings look for love and fall in love with other humans, and how much more we need to fall in love with God. Because once we're planted firmly in our faith and in that rock that's Jesus Christ, the benefits that come into your life are amazing. Verse 4 goes on to say, "The ungodly are not so." So now the author starts to speak about the sinners. "The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. And in verses 4, 5, and 6, the author ends this reflection with introducing separation between God's children and the sinners. Sinners will not stand, physically stand in judgment. They are going to fall down. They're going to bow down at the awesome power of Jesus Christ and recognize that they failed, that they turn their back on God and turn their back on eternity. So the author is reminding us they're not going to stand proud. They're going to fall down. And they're not going to be in the congregation of the righteous. They're not going to be with the people of Israel. They're not going to be with the Christians who received Jesus Christ. They're not going to be in that new heaven that Jesus establishes on earth. Many times Jesus talked about this separation, and he mentioned sheep and goats in the book of Matthew. And for those that want to read up on it, in Matthew 25, it talks about this separation. And it's a very real reality that we need to accept, that a life without God leads to destruction. It leads to an eternal death of flesh, eternal death of spirit. But a life with God and with Christ leads not only to eternal life, but it also holds the key to answering every single problem that's wrong with this world. And going back to my original statement at the beginning, many individuals in this world are looking for answers at this time, but they're not understanding that the only answer is Jesus Christ and the life with God. So I hope that this motivates you to read more of the Bible every single day. I hope it motivates you to meditate and to reflect on your own behavior and how your walk with God is going. So I want to wish you the best. God bless. And we can get through this.